All right. So if anyone has a guess, what do you guys think is the fastest growing sport in America?
Baseball.
Actually, lacrosse is. And the fun fact is that not many people know its history. It actually was the oldest sport in America because it was invented and originally played by the Native Americans. So it's been here a lot longer than the civilized America. Um, and the main purpose of the game was played to entertain the creator. They believed it was a healing game. So by playing the game and giving it your best effort and winning and trying your best, working as a team and all that, you were gonna please like your deity, your God, and it would bring you better luck, better like a better life ultimately. And so their main point was to play it there, and it also brought safety to your family because they played it, or they believed it did, because they played it in a time of war. So they usually would play it right before leaving war, leaving for war. Which when I was researching, it made no sense to me because a lot of the games resulted in broken limbs between broken legs, arms, shoulder blades, and even some resulted in death. So that makes no sense to want to die before war playing lacrosse. But the guidelines for the game back then are a lot different than they are now. Back then, goals were set miles apart from each other, and you could have anywhere from 25 to literally thousands of people playing on one game. And so it just kind of depended on how far the field was set apart and how big your tribe was versus your like your enemy's tribe. And there was no out of bounds, obviously, because how do you structure a couple mile long field? So the game was just very unstructured, but the end result was still the same. You still tried to get the ball in the net. And now it's put on a field that's 110 yards by 60 yards. So it's about 5 yards longer than a football field on each side, and then 10 yards wider, so 5 yards on each side. And the only rule they had back then was there were no rules. Like you could do whatever you wanted, you could go wherever you wanted. And obviously, if you're playing across a couple miles, it's not a playing field. You're running through woods, you could hide, you could do all that. And now there's a ton of rules, whether it's safety, just structure of the game. It's adapted more to our culture with concussions, with injuries and all that. They've had to make the changes. Originally, the gear for a lacrosse player was just their stick, and based on your tribe, it was carved out of a tree of a certain kind. Each tribe usually picked a certain kind of tree based on their beliefs, and it was deemed sacred property. And if you lost it, like it was a disgrace to your family. So they took their stick extremely seriously. Nowadays, you can pick one up for like $99 a Dick's. They wore tribal paint, and the colors were all based off what their tribe like their tribal colors were, and the designs were based off their role in the tribe and their role in the game. And the games usually occurred during, like right before the wars like happened, so that's why they wore the tribal paint, and it also helped them signify who was on their team versus another team. If they're like looking quickly right out of like the corner of their eye, the paint and the color of their shorts, because they usually didn't wear shirts, made it easy to signify who was on your team and who was not. But nowadays, with how physical a sport is and how many rules are structured and all the problems with injuries, you have to wear a helmet, shoulder pads, elbow pads, gloves, and a mouth guard. And then any other optional padding would be, there's like upper bicep pads that cover this area because the padding doesn't cover that. There's rib pads, there's back pads, there's shin pads for goalies because getting hit with a rubber ball that can go roughly 90 to 100 miles an hour is probably not something you want to do. And the gear comes in all different styles, sizes, and colors based on your team, based on what you like personally want. Like a defender who may not get hit as much might want a smaller arm guard or smaller padding than, say, an attackman who does get hit all the time. The field setup for now, like for today's game, there's two restraining boxes on each half, and there's a goal line with a crease. So if you see, like, if you've ever been on a lacrosse field, there's a circle around the goal. No one's allowed to go in that except for the goalie. And once the ball's in there, like usually that means it's either scored or the goalie has it, and he has 4 seconds in there. And then the two restraining boxes are about 40 yards, like in length, and 40 yards in diameter, or in width. And there's one on each side, and that's just a restraining box for the face-off. They're pretty much like, there used to be a point of them in the lacrosse, like in collegiate lacrosse, but they took them out to speed up the game. And the rules nowadays are very specific. A player must have his hands together when making contact with a person like on the other team on a stick, in order to prevent like a stick fracturing. When they like make contact, the sticks can break and then it can fracture and cause like the metal to cut you. It can cause a lot of different things. So that's one big rule that they've been emphasizing lately. When throwing like a check as a defender, you must make an attempt to hit the opposing player's stick. If you don't, there's penalties for that. There's no targeting or hitting anyone in the back. So those are the biggest rules for safety, because with the amount of hits and like brute force you can like receive, that's a big rule to keep every player safe. Other than that, like hockey, there's an offsides rule, and the biggest rule that is like different from every other sport is after a shot, the closest person to a ball receives the possession. And that's lacrosse.